Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be doing a review of the Toshiba 32C120U TV. So what I'll do is basically start off with the specifications, the design of the TV and the remote. Then we'll get into the picture quality, volume quality, stuff like that. So starting off with the specs, it's a 32-inch 720p LCD TV with a resolution of 1366 by 768. It has a refresh rate of 60 Hz and a static contrast ratio of 3000 to 1. The TV, of course, does have Dolby Digital support. And in terms of sound, it has two 7-watt speakers. Power consumption while the TV is on is 63 watts, and while it's off, has a standby consumption of 0.2 watts. Now, before we get into the look of the TV first, let's just round off with the remote first. I just want to get it over and done with. The remote is a decent size. It's not too large. It's not too small. It's just like right in the middle. I'm in terms of holding it, it's pretty straight. Nothing too comfortable, but nothing too uncomfortable either. Design itself is pretty decent actually. The buttons are very large, but it's not overcrowded. It just has exactly what it needs to be there. As you guys can see, the only additional buttons, I'm not sure why they're here, are the remote buttons for fast forward and this and that. I assume if you're gonna use this as a universal remote or hook up another Toshiba device, then this would work with that. But otherwise, the buttons are fairly big, very easy to use, not too complicated. In terms of the TV design itself, you'll notice that the bezel is probably around the left, right, and top. It's about 2 to 2.5 inches thick. At the bottom, it's a lot bigger. I think that's closer to 2.5 inches actually. One problem I have is that the base does not swivel. The whole unit has to be moved. I'm not a fan of that. I do wish it had a swivel option. Unfortunately, it doesn't, so that's a bit of a con there. Okay, still on the topic of the physical design of the TV, moving over to the left side, this is where you have the power button, channel, volume, input, menu, etc. You also have USB port. This is the only USB port in the entire TV. So at least it's easily accessible because it's on the left side. Moving on to the back, you have two HDMI ports. You have to excuse me, it's a little crowded here. VGA port for PC connectivity. You have YPBPR components, and of course you have audio left and right. Okay, over here you have a PC HDMI audio in, and just below that you have a digital audio out, and of course your very generic antenna cable port. Also on the back you can see there's 4 ports here. Oops, 1, 2, 3, 4 for wall mounting. And of course you have this little safety hooking. You put a strap in here, and what you can do is hook the strap up to a TV with a screw. It'll prevent the TV from falling over, which is pretty good if you have like small kids. Okay, the TV does not have a Ethernet port, so if you plan to hook it up to your home network and try to stream a movie or a picture or anything, you do not have that option, unfortunately. And of course the TV itself with the base weighs a total of 20 pounds. Now in terms of the menu, it's pretty straightforward. It's what you expect with most TVs. Nothing too complicated. I'm not going to go into these too much because it's kind of unnecessary. It's very generic stuff. Let's see, you have game mode. This is the preset settings essentially. Let's see what it's got. You can set up the audio. This is general preferences, closed captioning, and blah blah blah. Again, this is all very generic stuff, so I'm not going to get into too much detail. Sleep timer, media player. There's nothing really there for media player. See, that's it. In terms of general picture quality, I find that the picture to be pretty reasonable considering it's a 720p TV. Up against other 30 or 32-inch TVs on the market, I think this one is one of the better ones out there. In fact, compared to other 1080p TVs, this one can hold its ground considering it's only 720p. Out of the box, however, it did need some alterations because I found the TV to be a bit too dark, the colors are a bit off, so you might have to do a bit of a customization, but once you do, the TV can look fantastic. Now in terms of volume, the volume is pretty decent. So right now, this is about 1/3 of the way, and you'll notice that I'm having to speak pretty loudly over the TV. Keep in mind that the camera you guys are seeing it through right now is, I would say, about 5 feet away. I just zoomed in a bit. So for a large living room, don't expect it to be the best TV volume in the world. You might need a sound bar, but for a bedroom size or smaller living rooms for like say an apartment, the TV does pack a bit of a punch. It does a fairly decent job of what you expect. And one thing I almost forgot to mention, which should be pretty obvious, is that even though I was talking about picture quality being great, you guys won't notice it as well as I would because, you know, it's being recorded through a camera, which degrades it, and then obviously playing it back on YouTube degrades it even further. So you have to see it in person. Just wanted to point that out. Okay, it's time to give this TV its final rating, and I'll give this TV a 3.5 out of 5. The pros of the TV is that I was able to get it for under $300 with a 2-year warranty included. So the price is more than reasonable, especially considering that you get pretty good picture quality. Now, it's not the best in the world, especially considering it's 720p and LCD, but even with those two factors, it still remains that this TV has better picture than some 1080p TVs out on the market, which is pretty good. And of course, the volume, the speakers built inside are pretty reasonable. If you're sitting about 17 feet away, I would say it's more than sufficient enough for you guys. But if you're sitting about 20 feet or more, then that kind of distance, the volume won't be enough. You'll have to buy a soundbar. But considering how small the TV is, I think it packs quite a bit of a punch in terms of volume. Now, the cons of the TV. It does have a USB player because, you know, as showed on the left side, there's a, you can see a USB stick is actually plugged in right now. The reason I wasn't able to demonstrate it is because the con is that it only accepts FAT16 and FAT32. And right now, I'm not even home, so I can't even format my stick to that format because right now it's NTFS. It does not support NTFS, which is a bit of a problem. So I couldn't even demonstrate that for you guys. And even then, the USB player only supports JPEG and MP3 playback. That's it. No video at all, which is kind of disappointing. And of course, the swivel, the base of the TV does not swivel. If you try to push it, the whole base rotates with it. It could damage the surface that it's resting on. And lastly, there's absolutely no Wi-Fi adapter that could be used on this TV, nor is there an Ethernet port, so you can't even connect it to a home network and stream any media at all. So it is missing those features. If you plan to get, you know, a USB media player and then attach it through an HDMI wire, then by all means this TV is fantastic. If you're looking for media playback built into the TV, don't count on it. It's not going to do a great job. But as mentioned, for a TV of this price, it's very reasonable, especially considering the great picture quality. So that's my video review. If you found it useful, check out my website in the description below. Hit the like button, it does help. Subscribe, and thanks for watching.